Good afternoon, and I'm very excited to be talking this afternoon on behalf of the community group in the Honourable Company to Brian Dix from Goals Beyond Grass, who recently were granted an award from the Trust. So good afternoon to you, Brian.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Kent and your followers.
It's lovely to have a chat with you, and we're doing a few of these really to talk to the charities that we have given awards to from the Trust. And first of all, just tell us exactly what Goals Beyond Grass is all about.
Well, Goals Beyond Grass was a charity we started 6 years ago now, and it was to try and get disabled young people and adults into sport and any recreation to keep them from being alone, get out of their four walls of their houses and their homes, and get out and back in the environment and be with like-minded people and enjoy an active social life like the rest of us do.
And what sort of ages are the young people?
Okay, well, we deal with anybody from 4 up to young adults of 18, and then there's a separate section what does the adults as well. But we cater for everybody. We don't turn anybody away. We are fully inclusive, which is, people say they're fully inclusive, but then you see the small print and you can't do this and you can't do that, but we haven't got any small print. So it's just they come and join in and they're accepted for who they are and what they are.
And you started off by just doing power chair football, is that right?
That's correct. We started 9 years ago doing power chair football when I was approached by the FA to say that I was chairman of the Cheltenham Saracens at the time, and there was no power chair football in this area. There was a big void in the southwest, and would I look at it? And to be honest, I said no several times to start with, and it was only the third time they said, well, we're at the National Star College, we want to come and talk to you. And I said, okay, that's fine. And they persuaded me to come to a meeting, and it was all going really well. I was still saying no. So they put a little video up at the end of kids playing football. And the question they put to me then is, why wouldn't you be involved? You know, I can't say no to that. Why wouldn't I? I can't think of any reasons why I wouldn't. So I had to say yes, and that's how it started. Yeah, 9 years ago, just with power chair football.
And had you heard very much about power chair football? Because I hadn't before I visited.
No, I had no idea what it was. When I first thought about it, I was trying to think, well, you know, I've seen wheelchairs and I've seen electric chairs. How the two fit in together, I just don't know. But having seen how it's played, I mean, they started, 19, 20 years ago by cutting tires in half and sticking them onto the front of their electric chairs. And that's how it all started. You know, so it's come a long way then. I mean, now you can buy a power chair from America costing you £20,000. So the sport has evolved as a sport as well as social.
Yeah. And so obviously I've been to visit you, and other members of the Honourable Company actually have been to visit you. When you used to train at Cheltenham, I remember that was my first visit, and then at GL1 in Gloucester. And the chair now has a sort of plate on the front, doesn't it? So they kind of dribble the ball on the plate. And what I find amazing is when you see them spin round and hit the ball with the plate and score goals at quite a force, really. So are you saying that now the guys that are ordering chairs for 20,000, does it make them better players?
Typically, no. You either are a good player or you're not. Those who are good players, yes, having the better chair is better for them. The speed it goes, how quickly it can spin in a tight circle, the lower level you are to the ground means you have more movement. And it's like everything else, that the better you are, the more better equipment you have. So the people buying the expensive chairs are probably playing international football as well as being top of their leagues in their countries. So yeah, it wouldn't be for anybody. I would never tell anybody to go and buy a chair until they've been playing for a couple of years and they know they're definitely going to get involved with it. And go to a community club and play community football first. And then if you are good, you will rise up, and then you'll get a better chair. So anybody who goes and buys a chair, first off, it's crazy. You don't know if it's going to last. Take your time, make sure it's a sport for you.
And can we talk about the sort of disabilities that the young people would have that are playing?
Yeah, it comes into, I mean, obviously cerebral palsy. These guys have to probably turn their controllers down because they've got a lot more reflex in their hands and not more control. So we got muscular dystrophy. Unfortunately, this is a life-shortening disease. If a young boy, unfortunately, it's mainly boys that get muscular dystrophy, and they probably got a mid-teen lifespan, which is a horrendous thought. So when they come to us as a 10, 11-year-old with muscular dystrophy, you know, they've got the next 5 years, they'll be at their peak. And after that, their body just starts shutting down. And we've got players who have no core movement whatsoever. So they're lifted into a chair or hoisted into a chair, strapped in, their hand placed on the controller, and that's it. They've got no other body movement. They can't turn their heads around. So we classify these players as highly as they can be for the ability to football they play. So if they're playing at top level, you either get what's called a PF1 or a PF2. A PF1 is somebody which is the highest disability, because you've got to remember the sport was designed for players with very high disabilities, because they can't do anything else. These players can't jump out of their chair and go play football. They can't use a frame and do football. They've got no movement in their body apart from maybe their hand, and maybe some of them very luckily can still move about with a frame, but most of them are chair bound. So when they get up in the morning, they're put into a chair. When they come to us, they get transferred to a football chair. Then they're back out into their day chair. Then they go home and they're hoisted into bed, and that's their life. That's why we got involved. That's why, it's so important to us. But we don't stop anybody taking part.
And you've actually evolved as a charity. You've evolved to other sports now. Was that because it didn't suit? There were disabled boys and girls that you thought that sport doesn't suit them, but another sport might?
No, really, it was me being greedy. I wanted to try and get to other people, and to do that, we had to find sports that they liked. We started doing pan football, which is like a disability football for players who might have any blind disability you can't see. It might be a mental problem, it might be a physical, it might be an emotional. Those are a little bit shy maybe and can't play the full-blooded running game football, but they can play a milder, I say milder, I've seen some of their challenges and not so mild. But they have slight disabilities, and these guys need more support, they need more closely coaching, and they play, normally it might be 7, 8 aside, they play small tournaments throughout the county. So we got involved with that. We got involved with frame football, which is the players who actually can walk a little bit but hold on to a frame and still use their feet to kick the ball. So they've got a clear opening at the bottom of the frame. We've now got into accessible bikes, which I just blown away by people who sit on these bikes. Julie, we sat on one and I let you take charge, and you were doing the pedal power. You took me around the car park a few times, which isn't the easiest thing to do, being a man of 15.5 stone, so it's not the easiest point to push around. But you can see the enjoyment a person would get who sat on the bike, feels all the emotions of riding the bike, but can't physically do it. Obviously, we've got the chairs now that sit on the front of a chair, like a little scoop that puts them off the ground. And again, they get that feeling that they're riding a bike. We've got obviously trikes, which are hand-driven chairs that anybody can get involved with. And we've got electric chairs now that they sit back and enjoy the little motor taking them along the road. So that's gone crazy. We also do multi-sports, which is any sport you can think of. Like we might be able to play badminton or volleyball, but it's all on the floor. So we have low-level nets and low-level balls, lightweight balls. We just try and get everybody involved whenever we can. We're starting parachair hockey, which is coming in January. Which is again an incredible sport for disabled people, and we've also starting, which might be close to one of your close friends' hearts, golf. So we're working with the County of Gloucesters's Golf Society, and they brought out some kits which are disabled friendly, people with non-disability but low strength and stamina, so they can take part. So we'll be rolling that out very soon, and watch this space for that one. So
And if you need a sponsor, for that, Brian, you know where to head for that.
I think I might have an idea. And I may put that into process, in progress. Sorry, but yeah, we just sort of make sure. For me, we're moving with the times. We're trying to cover as many people as we can, to get out there and get involved and not be stuck at home in that box room. I know some people can't help it. They've got big families, and what do they do? How do they entertain? Well, we try and take a little bit of pressure off them by putting on as many events as we can to get as many of them coming to us as we can. That's why, the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire have been superb for us over the last couple of years. You and Nick, being our link in there. Of course, we come to you when we can, as often as we can, and put our thoughts to you, what we're trying to do. And we've been very lucky. We've been successful several times with your company, supporting us and helping us make it happen, which we couldn't do without the help and support of companies like yourself.
And if we talk about the setup of the charity, I mean, it's one of the reasons that Nick and I, through Pied Piper and the Honourable Company, support your charities, because you run it as much on a shoestring as you possibly can.
Yep.
You've got some young lads involved that did a degree in sport for disabled young people. So just tell us a bit about the setup of the charity.
Okay, well, like I say, when we started the charity, it was 7 years ago now. It was myself and young Pat when we first started in a very small office in Grove Street in Cheltenham. In fact, it was in my back bedroom to start with, but I couldn't have Pat in my bedroom all the time; it just wasn't working. So let's get an office in Grove Street, and it grew from there. I had a couple of people who were taking internships, so they were free. So brought them on board. You might remember Jenny Rutter when we first started. She became part of it, and that was so. Then there were three of us. Then we had a couple of people come in who were again at college. And Ryan, of course, was the next person on board, and then we sort of grew. Again, we as a non-for-profits, we never had much money in the bank, because we had to spend it. Because to spend it was getting people involved, so that was never a problem for me. It was always going to go back out there, and then we grew again. So then Kieran turned up. He would just studied at Worcester University in a disability course. He was looking for someone to join and able to do a sport. We were very lucky, knocked on our door. He came into one of our sessions on a Saturday morning, loved what we were doing. We took him on as a volunteer, and then when he finished his course, I took the big steps. We were employing somebody for the first time. So he came on board, and then Tim came on board, another student who'd done a disability course at Hartbury. Then Kane came on board, then Anne, who does all our office work and procedures and policies to make sure we are ticking all the right boxes, and charity commission and accounts. So I've powered on to Anne a little bit. And then we've got Will here for a year on internship. So again, we've got a bigger group of people now. Tim's left to do Pastures New, but the core of us are still here and taking on more projects. So I'm sure we've just got some funding, I'm glad to say, to take on another coach for 20 hours. So that means we can do more sessions. So everything we get in goes straight back out again. So our bank balance is like a yo-yo, comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. But that's the way it should be. We don't want a massive bank balance. What good's that? That's not helping anybody. Yes, we have our reserve accounts if there's a problem or we have issues that we've got safety there. But the rest of the time we're out there working hard with different people like yourself to help raise money. So that's the structure of the non-profit goes beyond grass.
Yeah, and I know that you are, Kieran especially, is very good apparently at applying for grants for salaries, so it sort of gets self-paid. So finally, really, we gave you a grant recently for £1,000. Can you give us an idea of where that money went?
Yeah, basically we were looking at the big one, and because of the cost of not only the vehicles but the fueling, how we were going to get our PAN team around. Now the PAN football players come from all over Gloucestershire, but they're all Gloucestershire based, and so they train at Gloucester City Football Club. We've got a good partnership going with them. But when we go away to the tournaments, it might be to Bristol, it might be to other outside counties who have got teams, because not that many in the county of Gloucestershire. So we always have to travel. Now, the biggest part of travel is, one, how do we get 15 players out there? Two, how do we fund it? How do we get a vehicle? How do we get volunteers to do this? So basically, we've got Mary Claire in her Jumbulance, which has got a toilet on board. You can have 6 wheelchairs fixed in there. It's got great storage underneath it, and you can have 17 able-bodied disabled people in there as well. So that fits that criteria fantastically. But then it costs, excuse me, over £300 to hire plus fuel. So again, it very quickly becomes something we can't afford to do. But with your funding, I'm very happy to say we went to 5 competitions this year, and our first team won their league, our second team won their league, and our third team comes second in their league. So
fantastic.
You know, but we wouldn't have been able to do that without the help and support of companies like the Honourable Company of Gloucestershire, because we couldn't afford to take them. They don't drive, they haven't got cars. Unfortunately, their parents are always available to take them because they've got other members of the family, or they're working or whatever. So these guys and girls can't go anywhere. They can catch the bus and get to the city of Gloucestershire in the football ground. That's where we used to pick them up from, and then take them to the football, bring them back, and of course they're all happy and laughing because they've won the league. But we couldn't have done it without you guys. So on the back of that, we've got 2 more teams for this year. So we've got 5 teams now on the support we're getting from the way we're playing.
Oh, that's brilliant. And I hope that all our members now really understand what Goals Beyond Grass is all about, and let us know, you know, if there's anything on that we can come and support. And it's lovely for you to fill us in. Thanks very much, Brian. See you soon.
Always my pleasure. Bye-bye.